So for a lot of people, when they're using Vim, their favorite feature is something like maybe modal editing or the fact that it's available in every system. For me, it's text objects. I really dig text objects. You probably have some encounters with them before. For example, DAW, delete a word. W there is a text object for a word. Or VAP, select a paragraph, visually select a paragraph. In this video, I'm going to go from A to Z and create a text object for every single letter of the alphabet, just to show you how far you can go with this feature. I think you're going to enjoy this. Okay, let's start with the letter A for arguments, as in function arguments. This is usually with the letters AA. So I'm going to show you how this works with a Python function here. I can do DAA to remove that particular argument. I can do toDAA to remove two arguments. I can go to the middle arguments and I can do something like CIA to modify it, and so on. Lots of nice things to do there. And this works with other types of functions, DAA, no problem there. And let me show you why this is valuable compared to just using words. So let's say I want to remove this item here. If I do DW, then it does something a little bit weird. If I do DW again, yeah, it gets rid of the comma, but maybe that's not always what you want. But with this particular plugin, I can do DAA, and that, it's guaranteed to get the quotes with it. Or let me remember this, DIA, yeah, to retain the comma. This is really handy, especially for building up macros. What's more, you can also use the dot command to repeat stuff here. So if I do DAA to get rid of an argument, then I can press dot to do that a couple more times. I'm going to undo there. Next up, B for brackets. This is an abstraction over various types of brackets. Normally in Vim, you can do something like DI and then parenthesis, and the word will go away, or DI and a curly bracket. But what if you don't want to think about that? What if you just want to use letter B for them all? So now I can just do DIB, DIB, DIB. And that's much easier for the fingers to remember and also much better for macros. Let's show some more features here. So this is kind of triply nested. And let me select the innermost one. So I'm just going to VIB to select that. Now, if I want to select the two layers, I can do V2IB, which is really nice. I can also do V3IB and grab it all. This is great for working with JSON and that kind of thing. Now I want to move on to the letter C, C for comments. This doesn't work very well in code fences in my Markdown, so I'm just going to open up another file, comments.js. And what we can do here is I can do VAC to select a comment, DAC to delete a comment. I can also edit inside the comment and retain these delimiters, which can be quite handy. So for that, I would do something like CIC. And now I'm inside the delimiters. This is, extremely handy, obviously. I work in Python quite a lot, and they have these things called Docstrings within the functions. So I've created a text object D here. What I do here is VAD, and I can grab all that, or VID. As you kind of expect, the regular comment thing doesn't work here, but this does. Next up is the letter E. Stands for examples in my world. More commonly, you might think of this as code fences. And it comes from the Vim Text Objects Markdown plugin. So I can navigate to the next code fence with square bracket E. As you can see, I'm there, and square bracket E again, and I'm all the way down there. And when I'm here, I can kind of select the whole thing with VAE, or I can maybe delete everything in there with a DIE, and then just kind of start writing it again, etc., etc., etc. This is really handy. Also, a quick aside, I have Alt-T snips, or whatever you call it, set up, so I can kind of create these code blocks really quickly and start typing code here, and you see it already has the JavaScript there, but that's not really related. Next up is F for functions. This is obviously a very important one. I'm going to open up some code with functions in it. Oops, that's the wrong file. Functions.ts. And we can, for example, delete this entire function with DAF, or we can edit the inside of it with CIF, change the internal of the function. It's all really nice, and it can help you program much more quickly. Another really cool thing to do is you can wrap existing function calls in another function call with capital SF, and then I can type another function, for example, double here, and now it's all wrapped. Something else I want to demonstrate was that in many languages, unfortunately I couldn't get this working in TypeScript yet, but in many languages, you can do square bracket M to move backwards and forwards functions, which is also really, really nice. Something that I forgot to show you, but which is really, really handy, is that you can delete surrounding functions. So here I can get rid of double while my cursor is right here with DSF. I can then use the dot commands to kind of delete other functions and undo it as well. Next up is G for Git Chunk, or hump, whatever you want to call it. This comes via the excellent Vim Signify plugin. So in order to demonstrate, I'm going to open a file. This file has already been checked in with Git, so there's some Git history here. Don't mind the errors. So let's say I make a few edits. I write some code here, and maybe I write some code here. And this is a very large file. What I can do now is I can do square bracket G to go to the last area where Git changed. You can see the plus as well in the left-hand side. Square bracket G again to that area once more. I can even do things as well like DIG to get rid of that stuff, delete inside Git, or D around Git, pretty much the same effect here. And in fact, something else I can do, this isn't purely text object, but still very good. If I do space HD, I can see the difference that was added. This might make more sense if I do something like this here. I can do space HD, and then see a little inline diff, which is really handy. I can also restore the proper state of affairs here if I'm not happy with this with space HUD. And there you go. I'm actually cheating a bit here by giving you more text objects than you bargained for. This one's a bit of an aside. I call it Go Next. I'm going to demonstrate it in G examples. Basically, when you press star, you can kind of go between all the repeated mentions of some symbol here, a function. What you can do now is you can do CGN to change it. And then you can kind of just press dot and go back and do them all like that. Or I can do CGN change, CGN, and that will jump and bring me to the next one again. And this can be quite handy for refactoring a file. H is the next one. That just means the left character. It's not particularly interesting. You can do things like, for example, correct typos here. So I can do change HE, and now I've changed from monster to monster. Or I can do things like maybe delete 3H to delete a few characters there. It's not particularly amazing, but you know, it's there. The next text object I have for you is I, which is for indentation level. This comes from the Vim Indent Object plugin, and it's especially good for languages like Python with meaningful white spaces. So for example, if I go in here, I can, I'm kind of indented a couple of times here. I can do DII and delete what's there, or I can even be maybe just over here outside of it. I can do CII, and then the cursor goes to the right place and lets me edit it. If I'm at the top level here, VII, I can grab the whole thing. But basically this allows me to target whichever block I need, which can be very, very handy for refactoring or moving code around to other places. This is also handy with big dictionary-like structures, like this sort of thing. And you can see here that the voices stuff is indented, so I can just do VII to grab that, or I can use yank, YII, and now I've yanked that. I can just place that somewhere else in the code, etc., etc. If I go to the top level, of course, I can grab the whole thing. Okay, so next I have J, which I'm using as the junction of next word segment when those words are in camel case or snake case. And this is a bit inconsistent with how I'm using H as left and right earlier, because J would go down normally, but that's not super interesting. So actually what I have here is space J. So let me explain the problem a bit first. You can have identifiers in programming languages in various cases, like snake case, the camel case, that's a mistake, dash case, and mixed case. Now, if I do delete word, in this case, the whole word will go. That's because my set is keyword settings in Vim, which I can change any time, have the underscore there, and the underscore is what separates these items. But it doesn't have a dash there, so if I do delete word, it would only go that far. And it doesn't do anything about capitalizations and so on. This is kind of annoying, so what we do instead is we have this plugin. So I can do D space J to just get rid of one of those words, or 2D space J. Or I can do change space J. I can change the first part of that. Change space J. Yeah. This is super, super handy. I can also just navigate as well across these things as needed to kind of make minor modifications there, rather than using kind of something more brutal like W, which is going to go too far. I also have K here, which is basically the exact same thing in the opposite direction. Next we have L for the character objects to the right. This is kind of parallel to H. So I can do, it actually deletes the character underneath. So if I do DL, that's gone. Or if I do change L, that puts me inside and I can start writing. This is different if I just press C change, because that lets me change one character, then I'm outside of insert mode. Not really a lot to see here, so let's move on. The next one is modified, and that's for text I've modified but not saved in Vim. So for example, if I go over here and I add two arguments here, arg and arg2, and then I go down over here or something like that. If I want to access that text I've edited, even though I don't know exactly how to get there quickly, I can just do dim and I'm right there again. I can even do dim to remove it. So it's like okay, or whatever. The next text object I have is n for number. So I can do something like dan and it will delete that full number. It understands there's decimal points there. Another thing is that it seeks well. That means it goes to the next number. So if I'm going to change this number and I'm all the way up here, I can do change a number and then change it to whatever I want. Well, I should probably be another number, but who cares? Next up is O for objects, which I'm really using to mean classes, but I've used the letter C already with comment, so I'm going to go with objects here. Here we have three classes. I can navigate between them with double square brackets, so like that, nice and quickly. And I can delete an entire class with DAO. That's gone. DAO. Let me see if I can do a dot. Yeah, I can. There you go. I also want to show you the objects.ts, how this class stuff works with JavaScript. And you can see you can do, for example, change inside object, and you can start that again like that, undo, or delete inside object like that, or delete the entire object, blah, blah, blah. P is for paragraph, and that's one of the built-in commands, or text objects within Vim. And it's very useful when you're trying to, just write some text. So I can do VAP to select that paragraph. Maybe I delete it, or put it in the anchor register and put it down there. Or I can move backwards and forward paragraph with curly brackets like that. I can change inside the paragraph, etc., etc. The next one here is Q for quotes, and this is similar to B for brackets above, that it's sort of abstract and counts for all sorts of things and quote-like things. For example, I can do change inside quote here. I can do a change inside quote here, I can change the side quote here, even though these are 3 different types. And this makes macros easier and the finger memory a little bit easier. I absolutely love having Markdown files and READMEs throughout my code and my notebooks. Therefore, it was really useful to find a plugin, Vim Text Markdown, that allows me to move between these headers really nicely. I'm using square bracket OR. It has some other stuff built in, but I'm using OR a bit loosely here for README or README headers. Now for another built-in one, S. This comes with Vim. So first off, I can move backwards and forwards a sentence with the regular parenthesis key, so you can see how I'm moving here. Then I can select a sentence with VAS, like that. These are acting a bit weird, but in normal text that wouldn't be a problem. I can delete a sentence, just like that, and press dots to do it again. Great for editing regular kind of text. Another thing as well, I can grab, I'm only using the yank in this video, but of course I could yank the sentence into the paste buffer and then have it available for me there. T is for tags, really important for web developers like me. So for example, if I want to delete what's inside this tag, I can just do dit and then whatever I want there, or CIT. I can delete the surrounding tag with delete surrounding tag, and there you go. Sometimes I want to surround existing stuff with the tag, so I can do YSST and then start typing something like div, and let's give it a class equals big, and you can see how it gets added there. Oops. Lastly, I want to go into tags.html and show you something. So I've got a H1 here, you can see on both sides. If I do change word with inside this to a H3, it gets updated on the other side automatically. That's really handy. I can also change this to, say, an ordered list, and it of course stays updated nicely. Next up is U, or UN for universe. This grabs everything on the page. It's a substitute for Command A that you might get in a desktop application. So let me show it to you in action. If I just do VUN, you can see everything on the screen is grabbed. I can just yank it there, and you can see, the top title Vim Text Objects is there, and Z is there. Oops, get rid of the buffer here. Next up is V, as in value, as in key value pairs. This comes thanks to the Vim key text object key value plugin. I'm going to demonstrate by going to commas.js. Oh wait, there's actually nothing here. Is there a better? Maybe objects. What do I have available here? Key values.js. Okay, perfect. So if I want to delete a value, I'm going to do DAV, and you can see it's gone, even though I started with this out of the screen. If I want to replace a value, I can do change AV, and then change whatever I want. Naturally, there's the equivalent for keys, but we'll get to that later. We're getting near the end now, and this one is W for word built in. So I can just do VAW and we grab that. There's also capital W that has slightly different behavior, but it doesn't matter too much here. So I can do D3, 3DW to get rid of 3 words. It's not around. Next we have X for HTML or XML attributes. It comes from the Vim Text XML attribute plugin. So basically, say I want to get rid of this ID equals top thing in a clean way. I can just do DAX, that's gone. Or if I want to copy this data attribute cost 22 thing, I can do VAX and yank that. And I can have that conveniently available elsewhere. Second to last, we have Y for Y dimension blank lines. So here I've got a code block. If we select inside the whole code block, you can kind of see that there's a bunch of empty lines here. If I want to delete those empty lines, I can just do DAY, and all of them are removed. This can be quite nice for kind of cleaning up things. Now we're on to the absolute final letter, Z. And this is the key in key value pairs. So it pairs with V above. I think Z is a pretty good identifier. Don't really know why. Caps lock mode. So I'm going to go back to this key values thing. See, open the file there, whatever. Open the old way. And let me change inside here. So that will be CIZ. I can change something else. I might want to replace this whole thing with, for example, a non-stringified entity. So I can do CAZ and then have something like blah, blah, blah. And you can basically see how this works.